Hey everyone, I'm Mariana and I am back with another Game of Thrones episode recap. As always, this is a spoiler review, so make sure you're caught up on the show before watching this video. And let's talk about Season 7, Episode 3. The Queen's Justice. Overall, this was easily the best episode out of the 3 that we've seen so far this season. Of course, we still have 4 more to go, but I just hope that it continues getting better from here. And side note, there are only 4 episodes left until we have to wait another year or however long they make us wait. This whole shortened season situation is just flying by. Anyways, there are so many things I enjoyed about this episode. Lots of justice being handed out by queens this week. I only have a few nitpicks, so let's get into all of that. We open at Dragonstone, where Jon and Davos arrive to meet with Daenerys, but before that happens, there's a short and sweet reunion of the Bastard of Winterfell and the Dwarf of Casterly Rock. I loved the subtle bromance between Jon and Tyrion, and I really hope they get to interact a lot more this season. They did get quite a bit of screen time this episode together, so I hope this continues because I really enjoyed this, and you can tell these two characters have a lot of respect for each other. Tyrion also makes sure to let Jon know that his marriage to Sansa was unconsummated, in case Jon had that in the back of his mind. And this is also where we get one of the many references to Starks not really having a great track record of traveling south. This has been brought up a lot this season, particularly in this episode. There were 3 or 4 mentions of this. It's also kind of funny that when Tyrion says Stark men don't fare well when they travel south, Jon responds with, "True, but I'm not a Stark," obviously meaning that he's a bastard, but we know that he's also a Targaryen. And as if on cue, this is where the dragons show up, which Jon clearly was not prepared for. Meanwhile, Melisandre is up on the cliff watching all of this from far away when Varys shows up, and he's wondering why she isn't down there with everybody. We all know why she isn't there, and she kind of mentions her mistakes but doesn't really say what happened because I think she knows that if she were to be honest about it, Varys would trust her even less than he already does. She also tells him that she's brought ice and fire together, kind of like, my job here is done, which I thought was a bit too obvious of a line. It's kind of like she was narrating something that didn't need to be narrated, at least for the audience, because we get it. Daenerys and Jon, ice and fire. Cool. It just seemed a little bit cheesy for me. Anyways, she's leaving for Volantis, and she does say that she will return once again to die, just like Varys is going to die here, and she clearly gives him the creeps. And it's kind of interesting to see that Varys, who is rarely fazed by anything, is repeatedly taken aback by these red priestesses. We saw it with Kinvara last season, who seemed to know things about his traumatic past, and we see it here with Melisandre, who surprises him with a comment about his future. We'll see where this goes. Back to those ice and fire characters, Jon and Davos enter the throne room where Daenerys is waiting to talk to Jon, and the showmakers are clearly playing with the audience here because in the beginning of the scene, they're in the same room but still so far away from each other, and slowly towards the end of the scene, they end up face to face. I have to say, I loved this scene between the two of them. I thought as far as the meeting of two strong-willed people with different objectives trying to work together goes, this was just what it needed to be, and I'm so happy to see that there was no romance vibe in that scene or in the other scene with the two of them in the episode. I am not someone who wants to see Daenerys and Jon end up together. I know a lot of people do, but it's not just because it is weird since she's technically his aunt, but mainly it would just be such a neat little bow on top of the storyline that really doesn't feel like Game of Thrones or A Song of Ice and Fire. What I want to see is the two of them working together and kind of bringing those different perspectives and different ways of dealing with things in order to restore peace and quiet to the realm. But ultimately, I want to see them part ways with respect. And it looks like that's what the show is doing, at least in this episode, which makes me happy. I really enjoyed a bit of a humorous touch to this scene as well. And then, of course, she wants him to bend the knee, and he says, yeah, that's not what I'm here for, which also made me happy because if you've seen my previous recap, you know that I really did not want him to bend the knee, and he didn't. So yay for Jon Snow. There's also a lot of back and forth about the deeds of their ancestors, and each of them is trying to turn it around in their favor. Ultimately, Jon tells her they need each other's help, and he starts letting her know about the Night King and the Army of the Dead, which of course nobody believes him about. Unsurprising. I am wondering why they keep holding back the information about Jon coming back from the dead, because that almost comes up this time around, and then Jon stops Davos from telling the whole story. So as this meeting is taking place, things start getting a little bit heated. Obviously, they are both strong-willed characters, so they are definitely starting to clash. And before things get too heated, Varys runs in and tells Daenerys about the unfortunate situation with the fleet, and the meeting has to be cut short, leaving Jon in this odd position of not really being a prisoner at Dragonstone, but also not being able to leave, which he's obviously not happy about because things are not going his way. But don't worry, Tyrion is there to help, because later we see them exchange some words, and Tyrion suggests that Jon asks for something reasonable rather than try changing Daenerys' plans on first meeting, and Jon obviously eventually asks to mine the dragon glass, which Tyrion convinces Daenerys to allow him to do. We see Dany and Jon meet once again, and she tells him that she will allow the mining and the weapon forging and will actually help with that as well, but doesn't seem like she believes him, because he asks her, do you believe me then? And she says, you just better get to work. Obviously, she's not going to believe this crazy tale until she actually sees the White Walkers. Now, aside from the meeting of Jon and Daenerys that so many of us have been looking forward to for seasons now, I have to say that I was so happy to see Tyrion kind of back on his game and having a presence and actually contributing in a meaningful way. I am not 100% sure that his allegiance is with Daenerys. I don't think that he is purposefully sabotaging what Daenerys is doing, but his advice has not been the greatest, and I feel like maybe on a subconscious level he still is a Lannister, and there is an instinct of protecting his family in some weird way. Like I said, I don't think he's trying to mess up Daenerys' plans, but I don't think he is 100% with her. For some reason, that's the vibe that I'm getting, and I think the fact that he is a Lannister is going to come into play at some point soon. That's just a feeling that I have. Also in this episode, we get confirmation that Theon is still with us. He is fished out of the water by the remaining Greyjoys, who don't really have a lot of respect for him, but the show is keeping him around. I do wonder what purpose he's going to serve. Is he going to try to rescue Yara? Or what is he going to do? He clearly has some kind of role to play in the future, because otherwise I don't know why else would they be keeping him around. But I feel like last episode was a pretty logical place for him to die, but he didn't. Speaking of Yara, Euron is parading her, Ellaria, and Tyene through the streets of King's Landing. Why are the people cheering? I have no idea. Why would they care? Why would they know who he is? There is no internet to let people know what he looks like and what the deal is. I get that later they try to say that people are just going to cheer if they see something's happening and someone's getting punished because they just like watching that, but it seemed really weird that Euron would be welcomed as a hero by so many people in the city, and I'm not even gonna talk how I feel about Euron and his sense of humor this episode. He annoys me to no end, and apparently crowds cheering for him is making him hard. Good to know, HBO. Good to know. So Ellaria and Tyene are brought in front of Cersei, who is clearly excited about the gift that Euron has given her, but I love that she tells him, "You shall have what your heart desires when the war is won." So she has no plans of marrying him. Come on, she just wants to get what she wants and then dispose of him as soon as she can. And because I don't like Euron and Cersei is a much better villain, this stuff makes me happy. Later we get this awesome scene of Cersei dealing with the Dornish women. She keeps talking and going on with her villainous monologue, and I'm just sitting there wondering, what is going to be this crazy thing that she's going to do to these two women? Meanwhile, I'm noticing her lips look a little bit more vibrant than usual, and I'm thinking, oh, makeup department got a little bit overexcited today. But no, turns out she wants to poison Tyene the way Ellaria poisoned Myrcella, kiss of death and all, and leave Ellaria to watch her daughter die. That's some revenge right there. I don't know how I feel about this whole conversation that they brought up with how long does the poison take to work? Oh, it could take between minutes, hours, or days. It really depends. I wonder why. I really hope they don't end up with Bronn waltzing in, saving everybody to return the favor from a previous season when Tyene gave him the antidote. I just want there to be consequences for people on this show like there used to be, and I feel like it'd be really cheesy if Bronn has this savior moment with these people. I really hope that's not the way they're going. Also, I'm just hoping that Cersei did a really good job wiping that poison off her lips before she went to make out with Jaime, because that just had me nervous there for a second. She does get a visit from the Iron Bank later on because they want their money back, but she pretty masterfully talks her way out of this situation and promises to pay her debt as a true Lannister. I think most of the King's Landing stuff and the Lannister stuff in the episode was really, really good. There was a good balance of everything in there, and it really felt like earlier seasons of Game of Thrones to me, minus Euron, but everything that had to do with the Lannisters was pretty fun to watch this time around. We do get to spend a little bit of time at Winterfell as well, where Sansa is trying to make sure they are prepared for the long winter and prepared to defend the castle if they need to, and seemingly doing a pretty solid job. We also see Lord Baelish tagging along, and he's trying to tell Sansa to always be prepared and fight all of the battles in her mind because everybody's a friend and everybody's an enemy. And I feel like we got a little bit of a glimpse of the old school Lord Baelish that I really like. So now I once again have hope that maybe they will fix his character, and maybe he's been scheming all this time and he has some master plan and he's about to screw everybody over, and that would be interesting to watch. I hope HBO knows what they're doing here. Also, Bran arrives at Winterfell and we get another Stark reunion. Those always make me happy because these kids haven't seen each other in a really, really long time, so that was definitely a nice emotional moment. Sadly, Bran is acting really, really weirdly because he is the Three-Eyed Raven, and Sansa tries to understand what is going on and who is this Three-Eyed Raven that he keeps talking about, and Bran is not doing a very good job at explaining. To be fair, it is a confusing thing to explain, but I don't think it's as difficult as he is making it to be. I guess he's too busy thinking about everything that ever was or will be. But when she asks him about the Three-Eyed Raven, how difficult is it to say that he was in training to become the seer, but the previous seer died, and so he is the big Three-Eyed Raven now? How difficult is that to explain? Oh, and Hodor and Summer died as well. I don't know. I feel like he was making it too complicated. He does get a little bit creepy when he starts talking about Sansa's wedding night, and she just walks away from that because this is not information she needs to deal with right now. She is trying to put that behind her. So not the most interesting part of the episode this time around at Winterfell, but I think Winterfell is going to get a lot more interesting very soon, and it was nice to see that little Stark reunion. I am a little bit surprised that Bran got there before Arya, because Arya is riding a horse. I feel like she would be faster than Bran being dragged along on the sled, but but whatever. I'm sure Arya is getting there soon. At the Citadel, Jorah is healed from grayscale. Yay! Are we excited? I don't know if we're excited or not. I am not at all surprised that Sam was successful and nothing bad happened, which this is going a little bit too smoothly for everyone involved. I don't really know what the point of Jorah getting grayscale was in the grand scheme of things. I'm not sure if I mentioned it last year in my recaps. I feel like I have, but I don't really remember. When he first got grayscale, I thought this was going to be some crazy situation where he's going to bring grayscale to Westeros and they're going to have even more problems, but I guess he got healed and it's all good now. I also thought that maybe this is how we get Sam out of the Citadel, because I really doubt he's gonna stay there and become a maester. It takes way too long and he's not gonna stay at the Citadel for the rest of the series. But no, he's not getting kicked out of the Citadel because he did cure grayscale and his reward is that he's allowed to stay, which makes sense, I guess, but I just don't even know where they're going with this anymore. Finally, the two battles, the battle for Casterly Rock and then the Highgarden situation. I loved Tyrion narrating his prediction of how the battle at Casterly Rock was going to unfold and telling us about the sewers, which is right from the books. I always get excited when stuff from the books is brought up. However, it doesn't exactly go according to plan because Jaime learned from his mistakes with Robb Stark and he pretty much gave up Casterly Rock because it wasn't worth much to him at the moment and decided to take Highgarden instead, which was a very smart move. They have gold, they have food, and they're not super awesome fighters, so good job, Jaime. Now, even though the Unsullied do have Casterly Rock, they lost most of their ships. I think Euron destroyed pretty much all of them at this point. They lost some men, and now they're in charge of this castle that is going to help them zero. So that's going to be fun for Daenerys. Her ally situation is just not going very well. Of course, she still has dragons, and if she doesn't want to play nice anymore, she can just burn everything to the ground like the Targaryen that she is. But if she does want to play nice and not hurt too many people, she's not doing a very good job with that right now. As far as Highgarden goes, we don't really see the battle itself. We just see the Lannister forces advancing, and there's this beautiful arrangement of the Reigns of Castamere playing, which just made me really happy. We also see Bronn for like 2 seconds, and he doesn't say anything, which I was really sad about. I saw his name come up in the credits, in the opening credit sequence, and I got really excited because I find Bronn to be hilarious whenever he's on screen, especially when him and Jaime are talking. But he didn't have any dialogue outside of Tyrion quoting him with the impregnable fortress and 10 good men. So that was a little bit disappointing, but this final scene at Highgarden was just so good between Olenna and Jaime. That was one of the best scenes they've had on the show so far, not just this season, but overall. We see Jaime walking through Highgarden as a victor. The Tyrell forces are defeated. They're packing up the gold. They are piling up the dead. It's all going according to his plan. He comes in to talk to Lady Olenna, and how do you come out as a winner when the Lannisters took your castle and you're being offered a poisoned glass of wine? Well, here's the Queen of Thorns who can show us how to do it. I had a feeling that she was not going to go out quietly, and she inflicts as much emotional damage on Jaime as she can. First, she tells him just how it is with Cersei and that she's a monster, and warns him that she's going to be the end of him, which makes me wonder if in the end Jaime is going to kill Cersei and then, not being able to handle it, take his own life or something. I don't know. Or maybe there's a little bit of hope of Jaime getting on track with the book Jaime emotionally. Will everything Cersei does eventually drive him to the breaking point of abandoning her? But then right after Lady Olenna chugs that poison like a champ, she tells Jaime that she is the one who is responsible for Joffrey's death, and the look on his face is just devastated. The actor did such an amazing job in the scene. I think both of them did a great job, but particularly the actor who plays Jaime, whose last name is too difficult for me to pronounce, so I'm not going to try. I apologize. What's interesting is that even in this scenario, Jaime shows himself to be a lot less cruel than Cersei. He offers the Queen of Thorns a painless poison, and he made sure there's no pain instead of all of the terrible ways Cersei would have had her die. And even when Lady Olenna tells him that she's the one responsible for Joffrey's death, he walks away and he doesn't go for that last opportunity to hurt her physically. And I think that says a lot about his character and also a lot about how far he has come since season 1. This was just the perfect scene to end this episode on, and I am very, very excited to see where his character goes next and where this entire show goes next. Obviously, as I mentioned, I really enjoyed the episode. This was the best of the season so far. We'll see where they take it after this, and I think they have a lot to do next episode, and there will be a lot more characters showing up and converging. At least that's what it looks like from the preview, and probably Mother of Dragons being a dragon, but we'll find out next week. That's it for this recap and review. Thank you guys so much for watching. I would love to talk to all of you in the comments below. Let's talk about this episode and all of the theories and hopes you have for the show. However, if you have read spoilers about the next week episode based on the HBO leak that happened, I heard that was a thing, please keep those to yourself. I don't want the episode ruined for me, and I'm sure most people don't want that either. If we want to read these type of things, we will read them ourselves. So please keep this to yourself, but other than that, let's discuss in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching as always. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Bye!